will beyond flesh. The galaxy remembers the Jedi for their peace, but it fears the Sith for something far deeper. It fears that they never truly die. In the cold void beyond death, most beings vanish, spirits fading into the Force. But not the Sith, not those who were strong enough to refuse. There were some whose hatred was so pure, whose obsession with power so complete, that death itself could not claim them. This is no myth, no metaphor. These are the Immortals. Their names are scattered like ash across forbidden Holocrons. Their tombs, buried beneath the sands of Korriban, scream silently into the void. But for those who dare to listen, the stories still speak. The first whispers came from the lips of Darth Andeddu. An ancient Sith king, Andeddu uncovered a secret so vile it was struck from even Sith archives. The ritual of essence transfer, the violent tearing of the soul from the flesh and forcing it into another body. Andeddu died, but only in body. His consciousness lingered in a holocron, guarded by cults who worshipped him as a god. Anyone who dared open it felt the cold pressure of a will refusing to fade. Many tried to destroy the artifact. None succeeded. Then came Darth Sion. Where Andeddu sought ritual, Sion became the ritual. His body, shattered by countless battles, should have long since crumbled. His bones were dust, his flesh was rot, but through sheer hatred, pure pain forged into identity, Sion held himself together. Every breath a scream, every step a war. He could not be killed. He did not want to live, but his hatred refused to let him die. He became a walking corpse, a being of will, a warning to all Jedi who believed death was peace. And yet, the galaxy had not seen the worst. In the final days of the Republic, another Sith took their knowledge and refined it, perfected it, turned it into doctrine. He was called many things: Chancellor, Master, Phantom. But we know him best as Sidious. His body perished in fire, but his soul survived, not by accident, but by design. Through essence transfer and cloned vessels, Sidious returned, again and again, each body warped, each incarnation more hollow, but the will unyielding. It was not life, it was domination over death. The Jedi taught that death was part of the Force's flow. The Sith spat on that flow. They carved new paths. They burned the flow and made it theirs. To the Sith, the end is not the end. It is the beginning of control, of eternity, Force itself. Where the Jedi sought harmony, the Sith carved scars. Among the most terrifying examples of this manipulation were the rituals of bodily reforging, rites through which the Sith didn't merely survive death. The rituals of rebirth. True immortality for the Sith was never a gift. It was a transaction, one made in blood, agony, and defiance. Sith alchemy, one of the oldest and darkest paths to that forbidden goal, allowed lords to defile the living but transcended their mortal vessels. The ritual of flesh binding was one such blasphemy. Through it, Sith Lords could repair or transform their bodies into nightmarish constructs. The process required living material, captives, beasts, even apprentices, absorbed into the caster's form. Their screams, their essence, became part of the whole. Darth Nihil, an ancient master of this rite, fused himself with a living beast from the unknown regions, becoming something to neither man nor monster. His form was a fusion of flesh and terror, his mind frayed, but his will eternal. Then came the ritual of shadow essence, a rite so dangerous that even some Sith refused to speak of it. It allowed the caster to sever their connection to the material world, becoming a being of spectral energy, a shadow that whispered in the Force, bound not to flesh, but to memory and hatred. These Shadow Lords could haunt locations for millennia, corrupting the minds of those who wandered too close. One such being, once a Sith archivist, became trapped within the ruins of Malachor, whispering promises of power to Jedi who meditated too long. But the most feared of all was the ritual of dark rebirth, a final act of defiance against nature. Used only by the most desperate, this ceremony allowed a Sith to re-enter life after death through raw consumption. A corpse, freshly slain, would be offered as a shell. The spirit of the Sith would tear its way into the body, devouring what remained of the original soul. It was not resurrection, it was possession. The newly reborn Sith would be unstable, mad, violent, but for a time, sometimes decades, they could act, kill, teach, influence. The cycle of darkness would continue. Jedi scrolls warned of these beings. They were not called Sith, they were called Abominations, and yet time and again they returned. Every rebirth carried a price, sanity unraveled, memory splintered. But to the Sith, what was identity compared to power? These rituals were not simply tools. They were declarations. Declarations that the natural order was a lie. Declarations that nothing, not pain, not death, not the Force itself, could deny a Sith who truly believed. Holocrons of the Undying. In the deepest vaults of Sith tombs lie objects more dangerous than weapons. They are not blades, not bombs. They are holocrons, crystalline archives infused with the very consciousness of Sith long dead, or not dead enough. Unlike Jedi holocrons, which merely record, Sith holocrons preserve. When a Sith Lord creates one, they do not simply record their knowledge. They embed fragments of their mind, their will. The result is not a book, it is a ghost. Many who have opened these artifacts came away scarred, cursed with dreams, haunted by whispers. Some never slept again. The most infamous of these is the holocron of Belia Darzu. Darzu, a Sith sorceress and master technomancer, fused her mind into a holocron at the moment of her death. The artifact retained her brilliance and her malice. Those who activated it found themselves pulled into her web, forced to serve visions of her lingering will. Another, the holocron of Darth Revan, was said to shift its contents depending on the user. To Jedi, it offered strategy. To Sith, it offered conquest. To the unworthy, it offered madness. But beyond these, the most dangerous holocrons were not those kept in temples or vaults. They were the ones buried in the ruins of Taris, in the shadowed tombs of Diashun, in forgotten stations orbiting dead stars. These relics waited, not passively, but actively, drawing in those sensitive to the Force. Some believe holocrons possess a hunger, not for food, but for listeners, because through each interaction, each whisper, the Sith within live again. Essence, ritual, artifact. Together, they formed the triangle of Sith immortality. But all of it, all, was built on one truth: that the will is stronger than the flesh, the price of eternity. Immortality comes at a price. The Jedi seek peace, but the Sith seek permanence, and permanence demands payment. The rituals that prolong a Sith's existence do not come without consequence. Each rite leaves a mark, not only on the body, but on the Force itself. The galaxy's oldest dark zones, planets like Nathema, Malachor, and Ziost, are not lifeless by chance. They are scars, places where rituals drained not just life, but the Force itself. Nothing grows, nothing breathes. These are the graves of immortality. Sith who walked too long left trails of ruin. Darth Nihilus, Darth Vitiate, even Sidious, each drew power from mass extinction. But their power was fleeting, unsustainable. Eventually, they too faded. Not because they were defeated, but because they consumed more than existence could provide. In the end, they became their own prisons. Their legacies were not temples. They were voids. The lie of death. To the Sith, death is not a truth. It is a weakness. A Jedi sees death as peace. A Sith sees it as unfinished work.